All right. Wasabi gangsters. This is my first video inspired by watching all 8 episodes of Fallout in somehow less time than the runtime of the entire show. I did that all on Saturday. I can't shake the table right now. My tripod is a makeshift. I'm just going to show you. Ignore the Amazon boxes, but we have a makeshift Darth Revan lightsaber tripod. No big deal. Not bragging about it or anything. It's fine. And now I gotta reset my. It's fine. Look, everything's fine. I think that's straight. Okay, we're gonna run through, as said by the title, 5 books that I want to take with me into an apocalypse. Because as I was 4 or 5 episodes into Fallout in a nuclear world, I was like, man, what books would I bring with me? And there's so many books I haven't read. I'm thinking about doing a video where I go over the books I've read. This last year, my journey of reading has expanded exponentially. I did a lot of discovery, had a lot of discovery in genre. Like I initially had just read a lot of some Stephen Pressfield historical fiction, which damn, now that I'm thinking about it, Gates of Fire would probably be up there for one of the books I'd bring. We'll call it an honorable mention. But really from April of last year, I had this hip surgery and I just dove into my rehab to get my hip better. So that's important. But then also I dove into reading and writing and just kind of getting engulfed and entrenched in the field of stories, really. And I love it. I fucking love it. So I'm going to probably make a video about everything, like a kind of a recap from April to April, because we're in mid-April right now. It's the 17th that I'm recording this. But I'm going to go through real quick 5 books that I'd bring with me to an apocalypse that I've read and see what you guys have to say that you would bring to an apocalypse. Now, there's definitely a little cheating here. I'd say very small cheating. There's only one book that's a sequel in a series. They're sitting on a chair next to me. That's why I'm looking over here. So I'm going to start with, I'm gonna say no particular order, but there kind of is, right? There kind of is an order. So yeah, I'm going to start with the sequel book, which is probably one of the books that really got me into reading, and that is True Believer by Jack Carr. This one is, in terms of just a journey of fiction, political thrillers drew me in so fast. And this is the 2nd book in a series, the Terminal List series, a TV show on Amazon Prime. This is a story of redemption. I haven't read it in a long time, probably a couple years ago, but the redemptive arc of this story in an apocalypse, just reading it would be like, it would just get me motivated. I'd be like, oh, okay, well, I can be on a ship in the middle of an ocean at the start of my story and, land in a desert type environment and perhaps survive and get redeemed from the end of the world, which would be quite nice. And then next up, we're just going to beam through these. I hope that's cool. I mean, I'm grateful if you're watching this at all, but we're going to go to The Road, Cormac McCarthy. I read this in a night. This made me fall in love with Cormac McCarthy. I'm in the middle of Blood Meridian right now. I just read this recently. I read this at the beginning of the month. And partly, it's an apocalyptic story. I haven't read Swan Song by Robert McCammon. I haven't read The Stand by Stephen King. And I know everybody who's watching this is like, oh, this is an apocalypse video. You should be, those are, trust me. The Stand, I'm actually, maybe you can help me decide what's next between Swan Song and The Stand. Because I'm trying to decide between the two right now. For what's my next post-apocalyptic read, because it's just one of my favorite genres. There's such an interesting thought experiment, hence my 8.5 hour, or whatever it was, Fallout binge where I ate ice cream, drank beer and wine, and whatever with my roommate. Next up, this is a kind of an easy one, simply because it got me entrenched in science fiction, and that is the first Dune book, of course. I have all 3 of those cool little books in this one, but in an apocalypse, we're talking about, by the way, The Road in an apocalypse. It's just a father-son story. You can't really beat it. And for me, having lost, hold on, let me hold up this book again. Just hold on. This is really raw thoughts. Having lost my father when I was 10 years ago, when I was 19, this story, just carrying the fire and just the arc that you see, the man and the boy. Fuck, wow. I think it's the man and the boy, right? And of course, Viggo Mortensen, my childhood hero. aka Aragorn, is in the movie for this adaptation, so it's something I'm gonna have to watch. But the father-son journey of this book and the positivity that's kept throughout it somehow in the worst of the world is beautiful, absolutely beautiful. The way Cormac McCarthy writes it, it's like nothing I've ever read. I'm not saying I've read a shit ton of books, but this year was explorative for me, and this one was different than my norm. Like between Tad Williams and my political thrillers and Stephen Pressfield, and there's just so much variety that this one just came in and just really swept me away. So there's that. Now we're going back to what I went to before, and then I changed. Ooh, shaking. Dune. This is just a beautiful story. It's a quick read. You're talking about like a story you can read to people, do different voices. If you're not a lone wanderer, you're not alone in the, whether it's the Wasteland in a nuclear apocalypse, or you're confined in a quarantine space like we were recently, 3 years ago. This book, and also all of these, by the way, with the exception of the road, weapons, and we're talking about an apocalypse here, right? So you may need to bloody somebody with the corner of one of these books, and I've never done that to anybody, but it's an apocalypse and you may need a can of tuna. So go ahead and use Dune. It may help. Not only is this a beautiful copy of this book, actually, funny enough, I read this on the mass market paperback, and I loved it so much I had to buy all the rest. Children of Dune, loved. Definitely, it makes you wanting more. Not Children of Dune, Dune Messiah. Children of Dune, I was like, and then the ending was good. I probably need to watch that adaptation somewhere to get me more involved in it. But science fiction, Dune, it's so obvious. I've been reading Christopher Rocchio's series. I'm on Ashes of Man. I'm like halfway through that right now. And that series is just overtaking my favorite science fiction book. I'm also reading Golden Sun right now, so I'm reading the Red Rising series. I'm reading Sun Eater. Dune is still above those right now until I finish up on my catch up on Sun Eater. But Christopher Rocchio, his prose is so beautiful, and it's just unbelievable. It's just such a great series that expands upon. I've read Book of the New Sun. I love that book. The use of language that Gene Wolfe uses, Christopher Rocchio plays on it in Kingdoms of Death, which was a fun little treat for me, and I just enjoyed Sun Eater. I'm enjoying Sun Eater so much. So, but Dune as a single book, it's got to go to the apocalypse with me. I mean, if I could count all the Sun Eater books as one, I would say those, because then you have more weapons. But yeah, Dune is going to be number 3. Number 2, this one's tough because between number 2 and number 1, they're both beautiful stories told beautifully. I recently listened to hold on, I'm going to spoil the first one. Blah, scratch that. You didn't hear anything. I know I can edit that out, but I'm not going to. You just scratched everything you heard that I was about to say. It's not there anymore, okay? But we have Lonesome Dove. Okay, this book was phenomenal. An emotional roller coaster, a lot more graphic and violent than I thought it would be. Absolutely stunning. I love Westerns in general and film. This was my first Western I read, I believe, and it blew me away. And I have a couple old editions of the hardcovers of the sequels that I'm going to be reading here soon. And I just fucking love this book. Okay? I fucking love this book. Gus, Call, even Newt. Clara. Oh my God. This book is incredible. Please. I hope I didn't spoil anything, but you need to read this book if you haven't. And again, absolute, I wouldn't recommend throwing any of these. I feel like aerodynamics aren't going to be very effective for apocalypse sake, but you can definitely like sneak up on somebody and crank them, and it'll get the job done. And then my number 1 book, which is my number 1 lived in world as a kid, just growing up, getting the DVDs from Blockbuster. I know I don't look that old. My blood age is really young. I have a really young blood age, but I was old enough to know what Blockbuster was. The Lord of the Rings. Okay. I hadn't read these for the longest time. I recently listened to the Andy Serkis audiobooks, and by golly, do I wish that I read these when I was younger. I had copies when I was younger. I wasn't much of a reader when I was younger, which is a whole funny story I'll save for another video. But The Lord of the Rings, and you guys are going to be like, oh, obviously. obviously put Dune, Lonesome Dove, and Lord of the Rings in his top 3. And I had one, which, by the way, that's a terrible impersonation of you. And I'm not mocking you, okay? I'm sure you have very valuable opinions that I'd love to hear. In fact, you know more about me than books, 100%. And these are the obvious ones, right? But we're talking about an apocalypse. So these are the tried and true novels. And this is where I'm kind of cheating, right? Because we have 3 books in one. Of the 5, this is the heaviest, and that's probably why it's number 1, is simply because of the effectiveness of the weapon would be, and it's already red. So if you're trying to hide that, like, by the way, look at that beautiful, oh my God. I mean, if you're trying to hide that you just bloodied somebody, what better way to do it than the Lord of the Rings? You mean, ignore the white cover, okay? Because, you know, but you got red on the inside, so that gets the job done. Just a fantastic book. Specifically this edition, as messed up as it would be in the apocalypse, as much as you wouldn't want to get it messed up in the apocalypse. You know, the Wasteland has a lot going on. You can shove it in a mutant's mouth and prevent it from eating you if you needed to, but even then I would just probably let the mutant eat me, because this book is just so... It's Lord of the Rings. I need say nothing for the Lord of the Rings, right? We accept that this is one of the most fantastic fantasy novels / novels ever written. So yeah, let me know what your guys' top 5 books you would bring to an apocalypse. You could kind of do what I did. I based it strictly off of weight, as was made obvious by the progression of my book choice, with the exception of the first 2, True Believer. So we have, the thing's gonna shake here, and this is terrible setting, but that'll change soon. And we've got Lonesome Dove, I'll put right here. We've got Dune, I'll put right here, right? You don't shake, okay. And then The Road, and then True Believer, The Terminalist, Jack Hart series there. And you can't see him because my lightsaber is a terrible tripod. I'll also bring my lightsaber to the apocalypse. I just decided. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. If you did. If you didn't, you wouldn't be seeing this. So that doesn't really matter if I thank you for not watching. Again, let me know what you guys think, your top 5 novels that you would bring to the apocalypse. Let me know what I'm missing. I know, and also let me know between The Stand and Swan Song which one I should go to read for my next literal post-apocalyptic novel. Yeah. Thanks for watching.